I'm Bob. Who are you?
I'm Julia, and my last name is Helmreich, and I'm with RCAC, Rural Community Assistance Corporation.
Do me a huge favor and spell for me last.
Julia, Julia, Helmreich, Helmreich.
Okay. And a couple figures that stood out. One was the 40% of school kids don't have access to drinking water. Can you address that? And the other one was 50% of the Jill talked about preventable form of diabetes.
Yeah.
Are both of those? Can you verify both of those statistics?
I can talk more about the first statistic.
Okay.
And less so in LA because our concentration is in rural communities. So he mentioned the LA, but also the whole state of California, and our pilot project Agua for All is concentrated in rural California, not in urban California. Although in both places it is obviously an issue.
Okay, so I guess just what's your focus, and I guess what do you see as the what's the problem that you know about?
So,
and who are you? I'm sorry.
I'm Sarah Buck, and I am the program manager on this project, Agua for All,
Okay.
which we're doing in partnership with the California Endowment Community Water Center in Pueblo, Indio.
Okay, and Sarah with an H or without?
Yes, with an H.
Okay.
And Buck, B-U-C-K, like the deer.
All right, great. Okay.
So as far as the 40%, there was a statistic that 40% of children in California schools did not have access to safe water during meal times, which is actually both a state and federal mandate. Recently, some schools have been working on it, so the current statistic is actually 25% of schools aren't following that mandate. But in addition to that, there are also approximately 600 public schools in California that don't have safe access to drinking water. So the water that's coming in through their pipes and is coming out of the drinking fountains is contaminated with arsenic or nitrates or bacteria, all different sorts of contaminants.
What was that number again?
Approximately 600 California public schools.
Okay. What is now? There's a difference between percentage of public schools and a difference between school children.
Right. Yes. There is.
We do not have the number of the students at those 600 schools.
Right.
So
There are just under 10,000 public schools in the state of California. 10,000 schools, right? So 600 of those 10,000 don't have reliable, safe access to drinking water.
Are they in particular areas?
They're mostly in rural and disadvantaged communities for the most part. The state of California recently came out with their Safe Drinking Water Plan draft, and in that plan they said that 98% of Californians have reliable access to safe drinking water and 2% don't, and that 2% is mostly in communities of less than 10,000 people in rural areas. And the majority of them are disadvantaged.
Okay, so we're gone from 40% down to 2%. So
Well, no.
what?
The 40%, that statistic isn't necessarily about safe water. So the 40% statistic is about water access. So it's not just whether safe water is coming out of the taps, but the mandate, the law says that during meal times, students are supposed to have access to free, fresh drinking water. Not free, safe drinking water, but free, fresh drinking water. So 25% of schools don't currently follow that mandate because the mandate is unfunded, and it's really hard to ensure that their money goes towards that. So
what qualifies as fresh drinking water?
I didn't write the legislation, so I'm not 100% sure, but that's the verbiage in the legislation.
I'm trying to identify the problem.
we think the bigger problem is that in schools, not only is there not a drinking fountain located in the cafeteria or the place where the meals are provided, but many of those schools also don't have safe drinking water.
So the problem is really twofold. It's about the fact that a lot of kids aren't getting enough water, and then the second problem is that a lot of kids don't even have access to safe water. So they're both problems, and our project is trying to reach both of those problems, because the water stations that we're putting in, some of them we're putting in schools that have safe water, and some of them we're putting in schools that don't. So it's not just to increase access to safe water, but it's also to increase consumption, so that these communities overall are healthier and aren't facing the problems like diabetes and obesity that Jamie had mentioned.
Okay, so if we can, because I'm not
Let's just mark. Can we separate the two? We separate the safe problem and the access problem.
Yes. Exactly. What's your question?
I don't want to cut you off real quick. I'm gonna lose Jamie in a minute, so I want to make sure that you guys get a second.
I think I got.
You got enough with Jamie. You don't need another one with Jamie.
Well, yeah, the numbers that you put out, I'm not sure. I'm trying to verify their accuracy.
Federal law that says that all schools have to provide access to fresh drinking water. 25% of California schools don't meet that demand. In addition, there's about 600 California schools that not only don't provide any form of drinking water, but they have unsafe drinking water. So trying to convince kids that drinking water is a healthy choice when their drinking water is laced with arsenic is a pretty uphill battle. So that's what part of our program is, to install the drinking water stations. We're installing filtration where it needs to be to protect them from the contaminants. And we're also doing a lot of public outreach to teach these kids that yes, they can drink the water.